Hello everyone and welcome to ShadowCat Looming. This is ShadowCat and today we will be doing a pilgrim hat for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving everyone. This is a 3D pilgrim hat. Can't really tell too much, but you can actually have a little space in there. So it works for a pencil topper as well as a nifty little hat. Now, the bands here, I don't know if you can tell the gold bands that I used as the buckle, but these are actually the dual layer bands. They are the Persian white. That means they have the gold edge on the outside and the white on the inner side. And we do sell these bands, as well as many others like it, at our store, Party on Supplies. You can visit us on the web, www.partyonsupplies.net, and I'll post that again at the end too. So take a look, enjoy, have some fun. Now today, I was actually thinking I would start out by showing you guys my directions. So if you like this idea, let me know, comment below, and we'll continue it. I can also show the directions step by step as we're going through the entire project. So let me know if that's something you may be interested in seeing in the future. For today, since it's a lot of pages, I'll just spend a couple seconds on each layer. If you wish, you can actually write it down, pause the video, write it down, take some notes, do whatever you'd like to do, or you can just follow along with me in a little bit here, and we'll get through the whole thing eventually too. It is a lot of steps. This is an intermediate design. Let's see if I can get all that on there. Yep. All right, 5, 6. Then we've got 7 down here, and then 8. So I thought you guys might be interested in seeing what it looks like drawn out. If you guys are ever thinking about making your own diagrams or anything like that. And the other thing I can do too is I could put this at the end of the video. Let me know what you think, if you like it in the beginning or at the end. And if you don't really care about the diagrams, you are welcome to just skip ahead to when I start the project. Now 15 is actually a long one. So what you're doing here, and what it's trying to show, is you started on the left side. So you'll build that piece first, and then A will connect down here after you build this piece. And these bands I was talking about down here are actually going to be used and connected up here. And this is a whole new piece again. And this is layer on top of layer on top of layer. And then the takeoff. I'll leave that there a second too so you can see all of that. And this is the final page of directions. A little diagram up there and then a lot of writing, so be sure to read through all of the details first before you actually go do them when you're following my diagram here, because that does give you a lot of helpful notes as to what you will be seeing during the project. So again, remember, you can pause the video and read what it says, take your time, but I am just going to jump ahead right now and continue on. So, for our first layer, we will be taking some black bands here, and we're going to use 8 black bands for the first layer, and they are going to be a 1B2X, which is 1 band doubled. Remember how it doubled on the fingers there. Then, when we go to put it on, we're going to give it a little bit of a twist so it forms a figure 8, and we're going to place it on that way. And remember, during this entire project, you want to keep pushing the bands down, because we're actually going to be putting a lot of bands on top of each other. We'll just continue to take a single band, double it, and put it around the outer edge here. If I'm going too fast for you, just go ahead and pause the video and catch up to where I am. We're going to be going 2 bands, 1, 2, down on the right side, and then we're going to turn it and come to the bottom center there. I'm just taking a single band, doubling it, and then put it up here a little closer for you, making a figure 8 as I put it on the board. Figure 8s between the 2 picks. I'm going to keep doing that all the rest of the way around here. Sometimes this is a little tricky to do, so it just comes with practice. Keep at it. Alright, so this is our layer 1. And we're going to keep track by these little purple bands right here. So that's going to tell us we're on layer 1 here. Now, our next step is another 8 black bands, and this is going to be 1B1X. 1 band, 1 time around, so no doubling it or anything like that. And remember, before you go on, if you haven't already, to push down all of your bands. We're going to start at the top, and we're just going to lay 1 band all around on top of the previous layer that we just put in. After we've completed that, we're going to add another purple band because that's layer 2 now that we've just completed. Now, we're going to be taking, and if you look from the side here, you can actually see pretty well that that top 2 bands is 1 layer, and those bottom bands is another layer. And you can see that all along here. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking this bottom layer, we're going to be looping it out, up, and over to the center. So we'll grab those bands, pull it out, up, and over. Now when we do that, we want to be really careful not to knock off those top 2 bands right there. So if you do, sometimes they're kind of hard to replace and get everything back into position. So be really careful with that. You want to keep grabbing the bottom bands and looping it out, up, and over. Now, sometimes you may slip and only get 1 band. If you get one band, that's fine. Just go ahead and go back down and grab the second band as well, so that you've only got the top 2 bands remaining. Then, after you've completed that, push down all of your bands. We're going to take one of the gold bands right now, and we're going to make it into a looped band around this, and it's going to be a 1B3X. So we're going to put it on, we're going to pull it out, twist it, go back through with the crochet hook, that's 2, pull it out, twist it, go back through with the crochet hook, that's 3. And if you look from here, you can see that's 1, 2, and 3 bands. So after we do that, we're going to be sliding those bands onto that spot right there. Now, this is going to be the bottom piece of the buckle. And we're going to need to take these bands off in order to do it. Be very careful that you get them replaced without losing any of the bands. So we're going to reach in, we're going to take them off, and we're going to take these bands that we just looped onto this, and we're going to slide them down onto those black bands, and then we're going to carefully replace those black bands. Now we should have gold bands right there. We are now moving on to layer 3. Layer 3 is actually going to be white bands and 2 gold bands. The 2 gold bands are going to be the sides of the buckle. So we're actually going to start with those. And it's going to be a similar idea to begin with as what we just did, a little bit different. We're going to put the band on, the gold band on the crochet hook again. We're going to do those 3 loops again like we did a minute ago. And this time, we're going to take 2 white bands. And we're going to hook it down at the end of our hook. I put my finger there for a second just to hold it in place so I can get a better grip on it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to put my finger through it like that. I'm going to hold down here, pulling back, keeping the tension on the line here. If you lose that, you could lose some of your project. And you'll have to start this piece over again. We're going to take these 3 bands, we're going to slide them onto the 2 bands there. And we're going to put those on a hook. Then we're going to put that on a holding device for a minute. And we're going to put that off on the side. And this is what it should look like on the holding device. We're going to do that same exact thing again. Another gold band, loop 3 times onto the crochet hook, 2 white bands, notched at the end, tension held, slide those down, pull them onto the white bands. Reclaim that onto the hook there. When I do this, I'm just kind of more so straightening the gold bands onto the white bands there. We're going to put that. Actually, we don't need to put that. We'll just start with those. You can take those last ones off, actually. So what we want to do is we want to put this over on the side here. So you've got 2 bands and 2 bands. these two bands are going to need to go on this peg. These two bands are going to need to go on this peg. Just like that. Do the same thing, except these two bands are going to go on this peg, and these two bands are going to go on this peg. Alright. Now we're going to continue going around the circle here, and we're going to continue the pattern of 2 white bands each time. We're going to keep pushing them down. 2 white bands. 2 white bands. That was layer 3. So we're going to get our marker and mark that we have done layer 3 now. Now this one's easy to tell the 2 different layers. We've got black bands and we've got white bands. So this time we're going to be grabbing just the bottom 2 black bands and pulling them out, up and over to the center. So do that on all of the pegs all the way around. Be careful not to knock off any of those top bands. The top one sometimes is a little tricky there. You just gotta kind of go in from down here and use that groove to help you grab it. And as usual, push down all of the bands. Now you can either push it down with your fingers, or if you have a crochet hook, you can do that too, and that'll be a quick method to push them down. If you ever do that, and you're building up and down on a board, you always want to start at the top, because then it pushes each layer as it should be, in order to push each to the max. When it's woven like this, in a circular pattern, it doesn't really matter, because it's all even anyway. So now we are on to layer 4. Layer 4, we are going back to black bands. Oh, sorry, one step before that. Grab that other gold band. This is the 4th gold band, and this is the top to the hat right there, the little buckle. So go ahead and put on the crochet hook, wrap it around 3 times, grab. It's going to be in the same spot because we're building the buckle right there. We're going to grab the white bands, just like we did before, but it's a little more tight. There's actually a couple more bands in it than there was before. I'm going to pull these bands over those white ones. Then we're going to carefully, so as not to lose any bands, replace that back on the board. It's a little tight to do, so be very careful there. going to go to layer 4. And layer 4 is the black bands. And it's going to be 1B1X going around the entire outer edge. Now in this project, it doesn't matter too much which order you place all of these in, as long as it covers them all the way around. On some projects, though, it does matter the order that you place them. I just like to still go in a continual circle whichever way I'm going to go, because then it kind of keeps a pattern to it and is easier to follow. Alright, so that is layer 4 that we just placed. We're going to mark our layer 4 there. And we will do the same thing we've been doing. We'll grab the bottom white bands this time and pull them out, up, and over. Now, there is a lot of white bands there, so it's going to make it really thick to do. So sometimes it's helpful, just so that you're sure not to knock those bands off, to take one band at a time of the 3. This time I'm only taking 2. I guess that's 4. I don't know why I'm saying 3. I do a lot of angling with my boards, as you'll see. Angling allows you to see different views. That's very helpful as you get to more tougher, difficult projects as you go along. Alright, so that was layer 4. Now, for this next part, before we add the next layer, we're actually going to be reducing some bands. Because at the top of the Pilgrim Hat, it does start to shrink a little bit more together. So we're going to reduce it down to 5 pegs. That's going to be these 5. Quick clip here, just to show you guys who wrote it down where we're at. We are here. We're calling our outer pegs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And this is saying move one band from 7 to 8. Move all the bands from 6 to 7. And if you're moving from here to here, you never want to take the band that's already connected from here. You want to take another band that's usually connected from one of the other spots. So we'll cover that as we go through here. Okay, so it's 7 to 8. So we're going to be moving one band from here to here. So we'll take our top band. We'll find out where it's coming from. You can see when I move it, it's actually moving this band right here. You see that moving? So that is already coming from up here. So we don't want to move that one up here. So we want to put that for safekeeping in the center. And we won't forget it's there. We'll move that again in a minute. So now we'll check out this other band here. This one, when you move it, you can see is coming from down here. So that would be the one we want to move up there. Then let's not forget about the one we put in the center. We'll grab that one. We'll put that one back on over there. Now, our next one, we're going to move all of the bands that are on this one up to this one. Just push that down, make sure we got enough room there. We'll grab all of them. We'll move them all up. Keep pushing your bands down. Then going to move one band from down here all the way to up here. We'll take the top band, and we'll see that one is actually that one right there, which is connected to that one, so we don't want that one. So we're going to put that one on the center for a minute. We're going to grab our next band. When we move that one, we can see that it's connected to this bottom one right there. So that's the one we want to move to up there. And let's not forget about the one in the center. And we'll replace that one back there just for the moment. Our next step is going to be moving that one that we just replaced there, actually, to that one right there. Now, if you followed my build as we were going through it, and you didn't do a different direction, you'll be using and moving the same bands as me. If you changed it up as you built it, you may be moving different bands, so you've just got to really make sure which one it's pulling from is which one you need to move. Okay. So now we're going to move one band from here to here, 2 to 1. So see what the top band looks like. And as I pull that one, you can see that that's connected down here, so that's the one I want. So we'll move that one up here. Now, a good way to work this hook is if you point the top in the direction you want to go, it's a lot easier to just come right back and unhook from your band, especially since we're doing a lot of moving. Now, we're going to move all of the bands from 3 here to 2. Careful not to lose any as you're going. And then we'll move all of the bands from 4 down here to 3. And then, just so it's not doing too much pulling and everything down here, because these are the main bands, and we actually have nothing attached to that center band, or peg, because that's just like this one. We'll just, sometimes it's helpful to actually put a finger on those so the bands don't come off. We'll just pick that up and move it right to the center there. So now it's a lot less pulling. And now we have condensed down to 5 pegs. And all of them should have 3 bands on them. So now we are going to do layer 5. Layer 5 is 5 black bands this time. That's 1, 2. Now remember, if you need, you might need to push them down a little bit more. It's getting to be a lot of bands here. It's a little harder. You want to keep that separation so you know which bands you get. So this one here at the bottom, it's going to come all the way across the gap here, and that's going to be 1. So I want to put that there. That's 3. There's 4. And there's 5. And the same thing that we've been doing, we're going to go and grab the bottom 3 bands and pull them out, up, and over to the center, making sure not to knock off the top bands. And if you think for a second you knocked it off, like here, it almost felt like I knocked it off for a second, but I paused and I was able to count that there was still 2 bands. 2 bands is what you should have left on all of them. Now let's say you got sidetracked and you came back and you forgot where you were. You just count 2 bands, 2 bands, 2 bands, 2 bands. Oh, but here I've got 2 bands and I've got a lot more bands down here. So that lets me know that I still need to do that one. You want to make sure that they all have 2 before you continue on. And remember to keep pushing down. So now we want to gather up all of our bands along the outer edge here, and the crochet hook is the easiest to do that. And we're going to gather 2 bands per each peg, and we're going to work clockwise as we go. And be very careful here as you're gathering them up that bands that you haven't gathered yet don't come popping off, because then it can start to unravel on you. So you want to go down through the center. We're going to grab the bands on the hook. What I like to do is pull it back a little bit, and sometimes even keep my finger on it so it doesn't come sliding off the end there. So I can go and grab the next bands there. Just keep doing that, working all the way around. As you start to come up to the top here, it does get a little more difficult because you don't want to pop those 2 off. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll actually take my finger and I'll hold it on them as I'm getting off one of these. There's the 3rd. I'm still holding it on this one. There's the 4th one. And pull back and be very careful grabbing that 5th one. And it'll come off right onto the hook like that. Set that over on the side for a minute. Then we want to put that down for just a quick second. We'll get 2 single bands and we'll make them into a slip knot together. So one way to do that, you put one band on top of the other band. You take the back bottom band, go through with your hook, so on top of, underneath, on top of, underneath. We're going to grab that band and pull it back through, holding onto the first band. Now, if that's too hard to do, another way that you can do it is you take your board, and if you know how to make a normal slip knot at the end of a project, it's kind of like that. We'll have one band on the board. We'll take our hook, we'll go through the band, put the other band on, come back through, make that into a slip knot, take that off, and then you have 2 together as well. So either way, whichever one's easier for you, but we want to make sure to have that a double band chain here. That's going to make it a lot easier because we actually want to pull one of these bands through all of this, and we still want one hanging up a little bit, but we want to have that mouth on top really wide because we're going to do something else with it in a minute here. The same as before. I want to have one end on a finger, one end on the hook. I'm going to be holding the hook in the same hand, having the tension right there. Slide those down, but not slide them off yet. And we're going to carefully take the bands, lift them over. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing here. I'm doing 2 bands at a time. Taking them and just slipping them on to that big long chain. If you can do more than 2 bands at a time, that's fine. If you can only do 1 band at a time, that's fine as well. As long as you're very careful in getting them onto that chain there. Then, after we've got them all onto the chain, and pull not too tight, you don't want it to break there. And we're going to make one big, gigantic slip knot with the finger one and crochet hook one. And actually going to open this top up a little bit. So you don't want to pull it too tight, but you don't want to pull it so loose. See, I almost lost my tail there. You don't want to pull it so loose that you lose the tail. I guess a good way to do this too, you put the crochet hook through so it can't come out. And just pull a little bit at the mouth, get it opened up a little bit. I can actually fit 2 fingers in there. And now you can see a little bit of the gap there. Yes, now you can see it with the light in the center. We'll just set that aside for a minute. And we will continue on with our next part. That is going to be the chain, or not the chain, the long rim. We'll just set that on the side. We don't need our counters anymore. We are done with that part. And for the long rim here, we're going to be starting the lower section, you could call it. And this is going to be 2B, 1X. So 2 bands, 1 time around. And we're going to start on any column. It doesn't really matter because it's just going to be a straight line that we're doing. We're going to build these down. We're going to build them down 4 times. And then we're going to do a 1B, 3X cap. Last taking 1 band. I like to turn the board where I can get some maneuvering room here. I'll put the band on. Take 2 fingers. Right now it's got a triangle. Twist it. Take that finger and loop it around that peg there. Pull it back out. That's 2 times. This is going to be going around for a 3rd time. Loop that around, just like we did the first time. And if you get confused how many you've done, if you turn the board sideways, you can see and separate your bottom 2 bands. You can see 1, 2, and 3 bands there. That's 3 loops that we've done. So we'll take that and we'll weave that on up. So remember, hook facing forward. Go in through the peg hole. Pull back on the capping band. Grab the bottom 2 bands. And pull it out. Around the peg. Facing the top of the hook forward and up to the next peg. And we'll go down through the triangle. Remember, if you're having trouble with the capping band, sometimes it's useful to help hold it down as you're pulling the 2 bands out. So now we'll go through that little teardrop triangle shape. Teardrops are good. Grab those bottom 2 bands. Pull it up to the next peg. We'll keep doing that all the way up to the top. Now, once we're at the top, we'll grab a holding stick. I'll put the holding stick through that top triangle, making sure to get all of the bands here. You can see here as I go through all of them, and you can actually count that there's 4 bands right here on the holding stick. So make sure that you've actually got 4 bands on there before you go to take it off. And be careful, but you're going to be taking it off with your holding stick, so you just lift it up and over that top peg. After that, I hold on to this, and I hold on to the bands here, and then I'll pull them the rest of the way off. You don't want to do it solely with your stick, because sometimes they're really tender, and they'll break pretty easily. We'll just set that aside for a quick second. Now we've got to build the long strip. And we're literally going to be doing 2 bands on every single section, from the top all the way down to the bottom. And if your bands get a little too twisted, just take a crochet hook and go around that. Kind of just loosens it up for you. I'll make it nice and straight for you. Also, don't forget to be pushing the bands down as you go. Makes weaving a little bit easier. If I'm going too fast for you, just go ahead and pause the video and catch up. And when you get to the bottom, instead of the usual capping band or anything, this is where we want to take our piece that we've got on our holding stick and connect it right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull down on the piece on the stick. I'm going to slide it from the stick onto the peg. Now, if I turn sideways, you can see underneath that stick, there's that gap. It's right even with the stick. That's the gap that we're actually going to be sliding it through onto the peg. Now, the way to check that you're good before you take out your holding stick, hopefully you guys can see this here, is once you've slid it on, if you pull back on the stick and all of the bands are on that peg, then you're safe to remove the stick. All of them are not on there, and if there's anything missing in between, then you need to take it off carefully and try again. Just don't let it come off of your holding stick in the meantime, and you'll be fine. Alright, so once you've connected the bottom tail, the easiest way to start continuing is actually if you just pull back on those bands, then it gives you space to reach in like a teardrop again. Grab the bottom two bands. Continue weaving. After you get that first one, you can let go. That's a little easier. And just weave that all the way to the top. I think I'm off screen. There we go. Okay, the next thing you want to do is take 5 single bands. You know how we made that chain of 2 earlier, which I'm actually just going to continue with the chain of 2 that I started. But you know how we started that? Do it the same way, and this time we're going to be connecting 5 bands together. So if you can do it in your fingers, go ahead. If you can do it on the board, that's fine too. Whichever is easier. I'll make sure that we do it till 5 long. Putting the band through the other band and pulling one band through the other. Putting one band through the other band. Pulling that band through that band. Alright, so now I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It jumped out of my hands. Okay. This is going to be our slip knot band at the top. So act like it's just a normal single band. So again, we'll go through making sure to get all of those pegs. Sometimes it's easier to go right through the center here if you need. And stick it out to the side. Grab the tail of the band chain. Pull that back through. We're going to grab that and pull it through like it's one big, gigantic slip knot. once we've got the slip knot and the long tail, take it off the board. When you're taking it off, if you pull up and out, it'll come off easy when it's just a 2-band chain like that. If you get to charms that are more tedious, sometimes it's not an easy way to take it off. But that will work. So let's put that aside for a second. And let's build our top of the hat piece. This is going to be all single bands, and we're going to be using these top 4 pegs only. So we'll put 1 there. That's 2. 3. And that's 4. That is layer 1. And I just push the bands down. The second layer is going to be 2 bands, and it's going to be 1B2X. So we're going to take the bands, double it, and when we put it on, we're going to put it on vertically. So from this top one right here, put it down to that bottom one right there. And we're going to take one more black band, double it, and we're going to be putting it on from this left peg right there. That broke. Sometimes that happens too when you're dealing with doubling and tripling bands and all of that. That's okay. Just grab another one. That's why you got spares, hopefully. Stretch that one across. And push those bands down. We'll do at the bottom here, bottom peg, a 1B4X cap. We'll put it on, pull it out, loop it around. That's 2. Pull it out, twist it, loop it around. That's 3. Pull it out, twist it, loop it around, and that is a 4. Now, I find it easy to make sure the cap band is at the very top here. So I'll separate my layers. You also want to kind of separate out the horizontal and vertical bands, the 1B2X, the double bands, because you're not going to be messing with those. We're just going to weave the outer 4, the very first 4 that we put down. We're going to go through that bottom peg. Grab the top single band of the bottom 2 bands. We're going to pull it out and around. Now see, you can see here that there's quite some tension on it and everything. If I pull, that's actually going to cause a band breakage. So what we want to do, we want to go down with our hook, and we want to come out at the bottom, just roll it around there. That releases the tension. See, now I can actually get a lot further, and it's a lot stretchier than it was a minute ago, and I did not end up breaking it. So this is a point that if you're not careful, you can really break a lot of bands. So we're going to do the same thing here. Go down, grab that bottom band that's left, and pull it out. Now, since the first one's moved, that one was a little bit easier to move that time. I did not need a tension release. Usually you really need them with cap bands, and as you go on, it gets a little easier. Now we'll pull those, we'll grab the bottom band here. Top corner bands are pretty hard. Now, watch what I'm going to do here. I don't need a tension release just yet, because I can stretch it far enough. But you can see how it's still stuck over here on the corner. I'm not going to want to leave it stuck like that. But if we can temporarily get it up to the peg it needs to be, you still don't see that teardrop shape. We want to see that. So we'll take our hook, we'll go down, we'll do a tension release. Do it this side, so you can see a little better. we'll come out with our hook at the bottom. And literally, I can do this with just one finger practically. You just come right around the edge, right all the way up. And then you saw that band slid over and it has been released the tension and it did not break. That's what a tension release is. Now if it's too tight and you think you're going to break the band, you can't get it to that top peg, then go ahead and do the tension release before you get it to the top peg. That is perfectly fine. After we've weaved everything up to the top, we're going to put a slip knot on it. Go down through the center, make sure you've got all your bands in there. Grab it, pull it up through. When I'm doing this, I like to go down, make sure that I've got it. So sometimes I'll pull all the bands aside. And that's another helpful hint that you've got them all. I'll face the hook up initially. Put the band on. Then I'll flip the hook over so it's facing down. I'll bring it back, and as soon as I get it to the center here, I'll put it right to the center of that peg, and then I'll pull it up. Once I've got it up, and it's a little freer to move, then I'll take both and I'll slide them up to the top. That's the best way I've found to do slip knots. And I've got one on the hook, one on the finger. Slide the one on the hook up a little bit. Grab the one on the finger. Slide it through the one on the hook. And you have a slip knot. I'm going to take it off. You can use the crochet hook to take it off. Or you can just use your hook. Since it's only 4 little pegs this time, I'm using my hook. Bottom one's going to be a little tight because you got a lot of bands down there. We'll take it off like that. Yes, we have a globbled mess of bands. What we want to do is we kind of want it to be a globbled mess of bands, but we want to make sure it's a flat globbled mess. So sometimes that's a little squishing it and things like that. But once we've got a nice little circle flat piece, we're going to come back to our middle point of our Pilgrim hat. And we're going to take the slip knot that's here, we're going to slip knot it to this top piece. So we're going to take it like that, pull that through, and we're going to take our 2 fingers and open it up wider here. We're actually going to pull that piece through the entire thing and slip knot those 2 pieces together. So this way, if this ever comes out, it's still going to be held together. Because the easiest way I found to do this top, and this is where our stretching it out earlier comes in handy. We want to make sure it's nice and stretched. We're actually going to tuck the band chain into the center. If you need, you can also come through with a hook and grab it and pull it down. And you're just going to want to push that into the top piece so that's nice and even. And nice and flat, and it's going to stay right where you want it. I'll actually push from both sides, make it nice and snug there. And once it's snug, I don't know if the camera will pick it up as well, but you can kind of see here that we've got the outer ring of bands, the top of our creation, and then in the center is all of that centerpiece that we made at the top. So now we have the top of our hat. We're going to connect the rim now. To connect the rim, we're going to need this long piece. And what I like to do, this is similar to the witch hat that I've done. So we're going to make a circle like that. And it's pretty nice just to test it first and put it around the hat. That way you know what it's kind of going to come out to looking like. It kind of gets its form and shape, and then we're going to start weaving it in. Now, you can sometimes see a little bit of the seaming at the back, so what we're going to do is we're going to make sure it's at the back, which means this is the buckle, and we want to keep that at the front. So we're going to flip it around to the opposite side. And that's where we'll start. Doesn't matter which way you go. Whichever way is easier. Which hook do I want? I'll use this hook. What we're doing, hopefully you can see this too, is across from the buckle, here's the buckle piece. We're going to take to the outer edge of bands. We're going to take that long band chain and pull the chain through all the way up to the big piece of the rim. That's going to be what's going to go around. Now, since the chain is toward the inside of the hat, maybe this will help a little bit more light. We're going to come from this outer side so we can pull it that direction. And we're going to skip every other connection point on this rim. So we've done the first one, so we're going to skip the second one there. We're going to go through the third one. We're always going to keep to the same edge. There's 4 sides to this tail. We always want to keep to the same corner. So 1 out of 4, we want to stick to that same one. So once we go through that, we're going to go through every one on the hat going around. So that was the first one right there. Here's the next one right there. Go through those 2 bands. So we got 3 bands on that, which that is fine. If you miss and you get 1 band or you get 3 bands, it'll still end up working the same. So not to worry. I just lost it there as I was coming through, so now I'm going to grab 2 this time. Pull that through there. I'll pull that through there. Pull it all the way through there. So now the chain is on the outside. So we're going to go from the inside piece and we're going to grab the 2 bands on the next link. Grab 3 again. I keep grabbing 3. Change that back to 2. There we go. And we went through that one, so we're going to skip that one. We're going to go through the next one. So going from inner to outer. Grab our chain. Pull our chain through those. Okay. And if you pull it too tight, it could break, so you don't want to do that. But you want to pull it snug enough that's actually going to keep the rim to the edge of the hat. Now, since the tail is going toward the center of the hat, we're going to come in from the outer toward the inner. We just went through that one, so we're going to skip that one. We're going to go through that one. Grab those 2 bands there, because we're doing every one on the hat. There we go. Through the 2. Grab the tail. Pull our chain back through. Just keep working around the edge of the hat just like that until we get it all the way around. So our tail chain is going toward the outer side. So we're going to start from the inner side. Remember, every set of 2 going around on the inner side of the hat, every other on the outer. So we just went through that one, we're going to skip that one, we're going to go through that one. It's not too much of a problem if you actually lose the tail while you're going through. Since it's just putting 2 already made creations together, you just try it again and re-grab it. So now it's on the inner, we're going to come from the outer, do that one, skip that one, go through that one. Keep working that around. Alright, so now the tail of the chain is going toward the outer. So we're going to come from the inner. Next 2 bands. Right there. And then we went through those, skip those, go through those. Pull the tail through them all. Alright. So now the tail on the inner side. We'll come from the outer side. We did that one, we're going to skip that one, we're going to do that one. And keep going around from the outer to the inner. Now, at this point, we're actually right about to the closing it up point. So we actually want to go through a couple of them. So we're going to go through the 2 bands on the initial starting point. We're going to go through the capping band. That is going to close up our edge there. Now we're going to take this little tag that we've got, the chain, we're going to pull it through that little gap that we've left there so far. So it's on the inside for a minute. And we're going to, at that gap, there was one more set of bands. We're going to go down from the outside piece of the hat. Again, this is actually going to be the opposite side of the buckle where I'm at. We're going to go down through those 2 bands. We're going to grab that 1 chain band. We're going to pull it through those bands. After we pulled it through those, we're going to pull it up and put it around the entire hat. Roll it down so it's right at the seam of the brim of the hat. And then you have your pilgrim's hat. So at this point you can put it on a pen or a pencil as a pencil topper. Then put on a little critter or something like that, or use it as a decoration. So have fun. I hope you enjoyed the pilgrim's hat today, And I hope you'll check out some of my stuff in the future. Again, also go ahead and visit our website. We do have all the bands and such out there. It is partyonsupplies.net, or it is the link that I will be attaching in a little bit to the screen. Alright, thanks for watching. Happy Thanksgiving, guys. Bye.